Welcome back to the IHSN Roundtable, live from El Rey and alongside Kevin Akers and Rick Keaton. I'm Ben Garrett. We're joined by our first National Bank players of the game from Friday night. And guys, first of all, I got to say, Tim and his crew and Rick and his crew don't get together and coordinate these things. It just happens. But it's kind of ironic in that Clayton Carroll and Caden Terry not only are both play on the line, and it's not very often that linemen are players of the game, because those guys that are throwing the ball and catching the ball and running the ball, they're glory hogs. You guys know better than anybody how that works. But that's just how it is in football. Yeah. That is kind of ironic that you guys are both players of the game. But bigger than that, you guys are both Robbins boys, two guys from the Johnny West system. Johnny was just here a minute ago. Played together in middle school, and Clayton goes to Scott High and Caden to Oneida, and you guys have been having some big defensive games the last few weeks. And so I'm going to start over here. Caden, 14 tackles against Rockwood on Friday night. That was a heck of an effort.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So on those 14 tackles,
yes, sir,
you have to know where you're going to get to be able to get that many tackles. So tell us, as Coach Martin give you some keys to look for on how you position yourself to be able to get in that position?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I lined up on the guard for just about most of the night, and some of the keys he gave me was that the guards, they got back like really far, so it was really easy to tell when they were going to pull. And he said whenever they pull, I just need to get in their hip pocket and follow them to the ball. And that's what I did. They pulled a pretty decent bit, so
that's a good bit of good coaching right there.
That's what I'm saying.
All right. And on that, I know York was a team that y'all was looking at that it's going to be a tough game in the district. Of course, you got Rockwood and Monterey that you're looking at as well. What would you think, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, as far as the whole season altogether, what would you consider would be a team that would be maybe your biggest rival that you're looking
at? Like from here on, or just
the
in
whole
general?
Season.
The whole season.
Each year when you go into the season, you're looking at one game think, I hope we kick their butt.
Oh, Rockwood.
Okay.
Easily.
There
Rockwood.
you go. How's Cofield fit into that?
They're close second, I'm telling you. I'd like to beat Cofield too. I can beat everybody, but yeah.
So, off of that, what teams, and then I'm going to have to ask you to be honest, what teams does intimidate you a little bit?
Intimidate me a little bit? Well, York kind of intimidated me a little bit because their quarterback, they pounded it in our head that this guy was really fast and really really agile, and I was just worried about how we was going to get him on the ground, and I guess we didn't do too bad, but they passed on us a pretty good bit, and that's where most of their touchdowns came from.
All right, take me into the locker room here at halftime against York. Y'all find yourself down 28-0.
Sir.
I'm sure there was some conversation. I'm sure Coach May was probably pretty animated and saying some things that you need to do. Coach Martin, I'm sure, said things about stepping up defense. If you can, kind of tell us a little bit what went on in that locker room at halftime where you all come out and it was a completely different ball game. You actually won the second half 14-0.
Yes. We got in there, down 28-0 at halftime. Everybody's a little upset, to say the least. And Coach May was just – there was a lot of stuff with the receivers, and it was just everywhere, honestly. But, to me personally, Coach Martin was telling us that, we need to stay on our blocks, and those linebackers were blitzing, so it was all, keep your eyes up and everything like that. So it was mainly just focusing on looking at the linebackers and stuff like that, getting our eyes up, getting off on them.
There's one other question I want to ask you, and then I'll let somebody else jump in. We talk a lot about the middle schools coming in, and I think we've got 28th graders right now at Oneida Middle School, that hopefully all those guys will be coming up and joining the high school team. Coach Martin is your defensive coordinator.
Yes, sir.
And so what would an 8th grader that's coming in, might ask you, what can I expect from Coach Martin? What do I need to look for from him? What kind of person is he? What would you tell him?
He'll describe things to you in great detail to make sure that you understand it. And if you don't understand it, you can always go and ask him. I mean, don't ever be afraid to ask Coach Martin something, because he'll sit you down and draw the whole play out and just really inform you about what's going on, make sure that you know what's happening. So,
good deal.
All right, we'll swing over here now to Rick and to Clayton. And Clayton talked about Caden's 14 tackles on Friday night. You've been leading your team in tackles at least the last 2 weeks. You've led them in tackles. You had 10 tackles against Austin East last week, and it may be longer than that, but the last 2 weeks for sure you've led your team in tackles. So we talked about Elijah Phillips last week and how he's been Mr. Consistency at Oneida this season. You've kind of been Mr. Consistency at Scott High, that guy that can be relied on week in and week out.
Thank you.
He certainly can, and I mean, as an offensive lineman, you ask him, hey, what's your favorite position? He's a linebacker. He's a linebacker at heart. He wants to play on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
And it's good to see the effort that he puts out there because he has to sometimes chase down some ball carriers and receivers that, are quicker than gnats flying around my house sometimes, like that. But let's go back to Friday night, Clayton. You get off the bus at Carter, and, and you look, it seemed like it was a mile away where you guys had to dress at. Couldn't go back up there at halftime. It was so far away.
Yeah.
What does that do to the team, knowing that, you're so far away, you're going to get down the field, you're going to be on the field for the next 2.5 hours in one spot and can only move 50 yards away?
Obviously, it'll take a toll on him because it's kind of like playing at home and playing away. You feel a lot safer at home. It's your home spot. And even if you're away, you have that locker room that you've been in before, and you can the places in it you can sit down and actually feel like you're connecting with the coaches, making those adjustments. But when they sit you on the side of the field next to a couple of practice soccer goals, you really feel like you can't focus, because whenever you go inside that locker room at halftime, it feels like you're in hyper focus on something. So whenever they put you on the side of the field, it's hard to focus, of course, with the fans, the band, all that stuff, and also just like the gravel. We are set on a gravel hill,
Right.
so it's just not comfortable. You don't feel like you're not paying attention to the stuff that you need to be paying attention to.
It was a big road trip, a big game over there. You're under a new first-year coach in Coach Harris. You've got a new defensive coordinator. You've also got other defensive guys there that's provided no coaching to you. They're all new this year. What are you taking from the coaches this year and the emphasis the whole team has about dealing with new coaching?
It's going to change a lot of stuff, especially in the summer and the spring and stuff. Most people, most high schools, rather, focus a lot on summer and spring by working out, and just mostly focusing on their physical selves. But with us this year, especially, we had to focus on the mental and getting down the plays and learning basically this entire new playbook and this new system, and how we had to learn the new coaches' personalities. But it does help that Coach Golden did come from Birchfield, so most of our kids did know him. But still, it's just hard to, grasp the idea that everyone that you knew before, other than, Coach Fletch, everyone that you knew before is gone. So, at first you have to build connections with the coaches before you can really do anything with them. But Coach Harris and all the new coaching staff did a really good job with that. And also Coach Bill Hall, his son, Coach Billy Hall, they're really good at building connections, especially since they're up there in the school with us every day. There's real genuine people. So it was a lot easier than most other teams, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that was, I guess, the remark you're talking about. Last year, you only had one coach that was in the school. Everybody else was working on a job or working in another school. And this year, you've got some coaches are up in the school. And that helps a whole lot because you can, I guess, sneak in some conversations with them during the day.
Yeah. And also, I forgot to mention Coach Wright, but he's also big help. But yeah, you can ask him questions during school, and it really helps that, Coach, multiple of our coaches are gym teachers. So if you ever have a question, you know exactly where they're going to be. They're going to be in the gym. So it's been a really big help, especially with the new playbooks and all the new plays we've had to put in. And, yeah. It's just
Friday night at Carter. Another terrible half of football for the Highlanders. What do you see going forward? What have you seen? I guess the team started looking at Pigeon Forge film today.
Yes.
What have you seen going forward that we should be aware of about Pigeon Forge?
At first, I want to mention this. Today, before practice, me and a couple other seniors decided to have a players-only meeting because, throughout the season, especially if you're not winning games, which we haven't won the games in Lord since my sophomore year.
Right.
That does something to you mentally. Like, you have to make sure you're sticking on it and, like, really give an encouragement to those players. So today we had a leadership meeting. We had a players-only meeting telling people, like, the season's not over. Like, we have played, I'm like, just kind of lack of better words, horrible games. Horrible. Where we can't get nothing's right. Like first half last game. It seems like we couldn't get anything right. Our linemen weren't blocking. Like, we couldn't tackle anybody. Like, balls just flying everywhere. Like, fumbles being returned for touchdowns. We just couldn't get anything going. So the very first thing that we looked at for this week was getting it in our players' heads that we still, like, the season's not over. We have a chance to go where we still wanted to go in the summer. And then in regards to Pigeon Forge, they are a really physical team, always have been, always will be, in my opinion. They run something that Coach Harris said he's never saw. They have a defensive play where they have 2 defensive tackles in the A gaps. So we're going to try our best to scheme around that because their D tackles, especially since they're the only people along the line, basically, they're good players. Like, they're seniors. They've got all district, running for all state, I'm sure, this year. So we're just going to focus a lot on our line play on both offensive side and defensive side. So that's where our main focus is going to be this week.
And they do like to run the ball predominantly.
Yes, they
against their opponents.
They have they're a triple option team. They have the quarterback under center, and then they have a tailback right behind them, and then they have 2 wing backs, and they most of the time only have 1 wide receiver out wide. So they're not trying to trick or anything. You know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball either off the tackles or up the middle. So they're basically just daring you to stop them. So I believe this week, whoever will be the most physical team will win this game, is what I believe.
And just an interesting comment right now. When I stop by practice, and I'm there a couple of times a week, Clayton always comes over, speaks to me. He and Gavin Terry, before we even started the season, they came up and said, "Hey, when can we get on our show?" And so our committee, it's not my committee, there's another committee, select you as a player of the game, just to show that we can be fair to linemen and linebackers and everybody else, so that you can be most valuable player, First National Bank Player of the Week that week. And but it's that extroverted attitude that he and Gavin have, along with a couple other guys, that's makes it fun to be around. Mm-hmm. Game, practice-wise or game-wise, it's always fun to be around them.
And I don't know what Gavin's excuse is, but Clayton acts like he's a preacher's kid or something.
Well,
sounds like a coach to me.
we have had on Thursdays, and this is a long-standing tradition with the Highland football team. They do it at Oneida too. Sort of devotional series where you have a speaker come in, and it used to be that we were reaching out, and pastors of churches and so forth would come in. And this year, I think we've had 3 players already lead.
2, but
2.
I'm going to be doing
That's what I thought.
in 2 weeks, I think. Either 2 or 1 week.
I want to mention Brady Strunk and
Hugo
Henry. They've done it, and so Clayton's going to do that. And so, I mean, I'm talking more about football. I'm reaching beyond football. I'm talking about fine young men right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before you guys go, let me ask you this, because we talked about at the outset how you guys are both Robbins boys, and you played together in middle school, and you've known each other, been friends for a long time. I think you even go to church together. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yes, sir, we do.
So you go to church together. Then you wind up in high school, and I look back here a minute ago, and you're wearing your Scott High shirt, and you're wearing your Oneida shirt, and you guys were sitting back there like you're still friends, even though you go to different schools. And Scott High and Oneida don't play each other ever.
No.
But you're supposed to be rivals and hope each other loses every Friday night, right? Is that how that works?
Yep, that's how it works.
I think you guys. I'm thinking you guys can teach the adults something.
Well,
how does that work when you guys play together in middle school and one goes to one school and one goes to the other, and you remain friends?
Let me say this: what you missed was they shook hands standing right over there together.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Well, I mean, what I said earlier was a joke. I hope you know that. But I mean, I mean, even with us going to middle school together and like going to church together and all that stuff, most of these boys have known each other and been around each other for all their lives. So it's not just we went to Robin's thing. And while we do want each other to lose sometimes, which it does happen, while we do hope that happens sometime, we're never not like hoping that our buddies are doing good or anything. Like it would be nice for us both to have great seasons. Like we always hope for that to be the goal. And what I really wanted to happen, we tried it last year with the whenever we had the COVID win against Austin East, and whenever they didn't have a scheduled game, we tried it there. Didn't end up working out, but I mean, I'd love to see for us to play because I mean, it's not like it was back in the what was it, 90s, 80s,
70s,
90s?
and 80s.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was back then. I mean, there's still going to be intense rivalry, like a really great rivalry game. It's more than what it was back then. It's going to be great revenue for the county, which we desperately need. It's just like a lot of other positive outcomes would be coming from that game. So it's not just based on, oh, I want to beat the crap out of you.
Yeah, no, we're all kind of friends, or at least know of just about everybody on the other teams. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. Clayton Carroll, Caden Terry, congratulations on being the first National Bank players of the game. Good luck Friday night.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we're not done. When we come back, we'll slide our legend of the game in.